You are no longer looking at the Rainbow Funhouse. Rather, what you see before you is now known as the Trinity House. So welcome to the Trinity House. This Victorian Gothic-style church with a sleek modern interior sits right along the water within walking distance to a Ferris wheel. The building, being one of the tallest in town, contains a living space as wide as 16 by 14 meters, which roughly translates to 52 by 46 feet. That's a lot of room. Just look at how tiny the furniture appears in this photo. Here, this grand piano rests naturally in a corner. Of course, this main living space comes equipped with rainbow neon lights, if not as a constant reminder of the Rainbow Funhouse, which, before that was a pool club, which, before that was a place of worship. Just take a look at the large stained glass window. It's restored to its full capacity, even after the damages of the Funhouse fire, as well as the many different people who entered the space after it was left abandoned. Of course, people of all ages went through the building during this time, all by their own choice, as when this was a pool club, the business was meant for adults, and when this was a funhouse, the business was catered towards children. However, when this space was a church, I'd like to imagine that all ages attended. This is to imply the children went on their own accord. These children certainly did.
LeBron James.
It's not like I have some bitter resentment towards this building. I mean, the funhouse was way long gone by the time I made the original video, but seeing it turned into this, of all things, feels so different in a way. So this will be my 30th liminal space video, if you don't count the extra 11 from my analysis series, or the liminal edits series, or the abandoned liminal shorts series, or even the liminal journey series. I think now's the perfect time to discuss the current state of liminal spaces, similar to what I did in revisiting the Rainbow Funhouse. So I'd like to propose a question. To what extent do you lose liminality when looking at a liminal space from the internet? Typically, in an outside environment, it's necessary to be fully aware of your surroundings. After all, touching grass can be mighty challenging. One might be forced to be fully aware at school, work, or any other sociable hobby. In this setting, it's natural to speak, eat, and in general be around company. Now imagine being fully aware or present in this type of environment and there is no company. Why does this objection occur in reality so often? This strangeness is part of the phenomenon known as liminality, to exist in transition. Hotel hallways, parking garages, malls, these structures are made to temporarily host individuals. In modern times of the internet, we photograph these places and call them liminal spaces. However, it's not only consumerist culture where liminality is present. Liminality is regarded as the time in between, existing in the middle. For humans, that can look like going to an old relative's home, an old friend's neighborhood, or a place you met up with them, the place you might have stayed during vacation, or perhaps even the trip itself. As I mentioned before, liminality is the space in between, or the middle part. This is seen when environments contain no beginning or end. Fundamentally, this is an extremely hard concept for humans to understand. Humans exist in reality, or at least we think we do. We follow a simple chronological timeline. You're brought into this world when you're born, and you leave when you die. Liminal spaces exist outside of this notion. While they ultimately serve no purpose, when these spaces are captured, they become eternal. So this could be one reason as to why liminal spaces might seem so familiar. You must have looked at a liminal space at one point and thought to yourself, I've been there before, or at least someplace similar. If you've been following this topic for a while, at this point you might be desensitized to the overabundance of liminal spaces on the internet, which ultimately, unfortunately, muddies up the concept of liminality. However, liminal spaces are unique in the same way that art can make you connect with an emotion. In this case, liminal spaces feel like unlocking a memory of something forgotten. They give off this aura of loneliness that presents many questions to the audience. Even liminal spaces that are seemingly unidentifiable can capture this objection. However, is there anything that we can point to specifically where this concept of liminality gets lost? Let's discuss the Backrooms for a moment. The Backrooms are an internet catalog similar to SCP, which contains rooms and levels all hosted within, you guessed it, liminal spaces. Sometimes these levels will contain monsters or creatures, which in my opinion completely misses the point of liminality. You see, the Backrooms do not exist in transition. It's a system of levels, meaning that there is a definite beginning or end. In fact, there's even a Backrooms level called The End. On a fundamental level, they are the opposite of liminal spaces, so it's really nothing but ironic when people associate the two together, despite the setting for these places existing in liminal spaces. That's as far as the connection goes. Something else which might, and I do use the word might, negate liminality are liminal genres or liminal subgenres. Things like pool rooms, for example, which can act as a template when creating liminal space artwork. There are also AI liminal spaces, which completely remove the human element, as it creates artificial spaces based on already existing images. On the surface, there's really not much wrong with these. Again, they're just artworks, and I think that's great. Yet, when you dive deeper into the iceberg, you start to come across things like Backrooms liminal spaces, which are liminal space artworks created to mimic the original Backrooms photo, which somehow is both related and not related to the Backrooms. It all just feels paradoxical, and I feel as though these spaces, which were meant to represent lost memories, become way too familiar. However, is this due to them being overpopular? I don't think so. Many of these inspired artworks existed way before liminal spaces hit the mainstream. Not only that, but these images had to be posted initially at some point before they became popular. Humans are always seeking to figure out the unknown, and for a little while, liminal spaces really challenged us. But we understand liminal spaces now and what their purpose is. They serve as contemporary works or personal pieces to reflect the time in between. And while we might understand liminal spaces, we'll never really understand liminality, which is why one might look at a liminal space photo and feel nothing, but every once in a while, you might stumble across one that really catches your attention. If not to a similar feeling the first time you ever looked at a liminal space photo. For active users of the internet, I'm certain liminal spaces have lost some of their novelty, but that's just the thing. These spaces, which served as a collective subconscious of personal experiences, became a novelty. It was never their popularity. I argue that these images were meant to be seen by many. If more, it's more that the internet took something and twisted it into ways that could not be comparable to the original source material. I mean, I'll be the first person to call myself out on this. Just go back to this video and look how many videos I mentioned of my own. But that's just human nature. We wanted to understand liminal spaces, and now we do, to a certain extent. The point is, liminal spaces inspired us to return to simplicity. It made us question what we were looking at, as these images mainly challenged the audience. This might be the end of the Rainbow Funhouse era of liminal spaces, but it definitely isn't the end of liminal spaces. If anything, it's a call to action for a new beginning, to try to step outside of the box and innovate, to recapture that feeling like no other, of what it felt like to step into a liminal space for the first time. If you're new to my channel, or this might be your first video, hello and welcome. I'm sure this might be very confusing, but be sure to make yourself known. I've got quite the variety of videos and topics that I would recommend checking out if you enjoy internet culture or contemporary new media. But that's going to do it for this video, so please let me know what your thoughts are on the current state of liminal spaces, what you think of the Trinity House, and your overall thoughts on this video. As always, and I do mean as always, thank you for watching, and take care.